All right, business owners, insurance owners, whatever company you own, if you have a sales team, they will need a manager. I just went over what good salespeople will have. It's the top three. A good sales manager will have the next three. Normally, your best sales managers were not your best salespeople. And the reason for that is very simple. They have a high EQ, emotional intelligence. They have a high resistance to rejection, meaning they probably weren't that great, but they're used to delivering constant news that may or may not be good. They're a self-starter. This should be the recipe for a great salesperson, but they don't have to be the absolute best. You want a person that's excellent here. This is the most important, these ones right here. They've got the attitude, they've got the discipline, they've got the emotional EQ, and they're a self-starter. These will make sure that your headache as the business owner is as small as possible. That is the idea of a sales manager. So you do not have to manage these people, period. They don't need a ton of desire. They don't need to make $1 million. They don't need any of that stuff. They need the right attitude. They need discipline to hold the rest of the team accountable. They need a high emotional intelligence because they're dealing with other high-performing salespeople or low-performing salespeople. They're dealing with people. They need to have a high empathy level. Simple. They don't need a high resistance to rejection because they're not out selling. They're dealing with the people doing your selling. Very important. Self-starter. Why this matters is because you just don't want to replace the 50 people that you have as salespeople with one manager plus the 50 people. Meaning that person just calls you all the time and asks you the same question. They can't think outside of the box. They can't think for themselves. That is the recipe for disaster. That's why I have it on here. So your salesperson, I'll say person, is here. Your manager is slightly different. The worst thing you can do, and I've seen it a million times, is take the absolute best salesperson you have and make them your sales manager. Why is that? If that person is not set up to be a sales manager or be in charge of people, they're going to struggle a lot because they're used to just themselves, just them. They are responsible for number one, period. They are now responsible for a team. That is a very tough dynamic because sales is normally a one-person show. I can't tell you how many times I've met top performers, like crusher salespeople, and asked them, "Hey, how did you work that deal out? How did you do that?" They can't even explain what they do because they're just naturally so good at it. Or what really happens, they've been in the business for so long, their skill level is literally like, here's the best, they're up here. They're off the chart with their skill. They can't even communicate with someone down here. Think of it like Barry Bonds trying to teach your little leaguer how to hit a baseball. He might be able to go over the basics, but that little kid's probably not going to understand because they communicate differently. They're on very different levels. You can't translate it because, an expert hitter like that might say, well, the ball comes in, I see it, I recognize it instantly, I set up and I just hit the bomb. Well, little kid's going to be like, well, what do I never even held a bat before, so I don't know what I'm doing. You have to make sure that there is an understanding level and that this salesperson desires to be a manager. A lot of times they don't and they won't because normally they'll make less money or they add a lot of headache to make a little more money. Always keep that in mind. Your best salespeople normally aren't your best sales managers. There's a reason for that.